Pope Francis will be visiting New York in just 2 weeks. It'll be his first trip to America. The pontiff will make history when he steps foot on American soil, but he's already made history for some of his revolutionary positions on controversial topics like abortion, global warming, and divorce. This week, Rich spoke with retired priest Monsignor Robert Stern about what makes this pope special.
I got to imagine from every person I spoke to, of clergy and also laity, really excited about the visit of this pope. Could you have imagined after the conclave how much he has managed to change, and I would say energize the church in such a relatively short period of time when you look at it from Vatican perspectives?
You're right. It's astounding. I mean, he was a total surprise.
Yeah.
I remember asking one of the cardinals, a European cardinal, that, what was your reaction to the guy you elected? I know him well enough to talk to him that way. And he said, well, as you know, going into the conclave, his name was not one of the names that everyone was speculating about. But he said, and I can't talk about the conclave, but he said, all I can say is there were certain signs that this was the man. I said, well, Eminence, that was very generous of you, but I said, was he a surprise? And he said, he just told me the anecdote, like the first thing when the Pope spoke with all of the cardinals, and they just looked at one another, like, not negatively, but yes, he was a total surprise to them.
There's a lot more feed the hungry, clothe the naked than what has felt, again, speaking from the laity perspective, is a lot more on the social issues. Did he surprise you, even for you guys who followed his candidacy, that even if, as he was, selected, he's turned out to be a much different pope than a lot of people thought, right?
Oh, he was a change. For me, he evokes the excitement of the days of John the 23rd, Paul VI, and the Vatican Council. He has that spirit. And he's as surprising as John the 23rd was years and years ago when they elected this old pope that people thought were just a placeholder, and then he revolutionized things. And the same spirit. Like I remember John the 23rd was saying when he called the council, he said the church is like a beautiful painting that over the years it's accumulated so much grime and dust that we forget what it really should be like, and it needs to be renovated. It's like what Cardinal Dolan just did with St. Patrick's Cathedral. People saying, well, it's white. Well, yeah, that's what it was in the first place, We got used to it being dirty gray.
Well, the idea of the church being an opening and welcoming and even a forgiving place certainly wasn't the tone that I think a lot of people took, certainly under Benedict. But when the Pope says, who am I to judge about a gay person who wants to have a place in the church or to be welcome in its doors, forgiving the sin of abortion, as people who go through divorce and their place there at the church, he certainly has had a change from what a lot of people thought, which was more of a harsh, a very linear church. He understands that there's shades of gray here, and that the more welcoming the church, seemingly, not just in keeping with the times, but the more in keeping at least with what the Spirit of Christ is supposed to be, which was this was not a harsh, dictator. This was a benevolent God who believed in the imperfection of man. I mean, I'm getting a little on my soapbox here, but but there is that drift that I know people,
you're right.
So many people that aren't even Catholic love this guy.
Yes, it's astounding. So many people aren't Catholic, and then so many Catholics who were disillusioned by the church are now reanimated again. No, it's true. He's just so pastoral, and it's not that he, scratch him deep enough. He's not denying any of the things, but he's not choosing to keep talking, if you will, almost harping on certain things, He said it's more important to go out and find people and relate to them and stop quoting the rules. We know the rules, but how about the people who have broken the rules and want to do something about it? He's talking about mercy and love and forgiveness. And of course, there are always values the church has taught, but it's the balance.
Big picture, big subjects, global warming, income inequality. He's definitely going to be talking about these things, and it'll be very interesting the reception he gets in Congress. But I've also had this discussion with other people. If there's going to be one person who's got a chance to actually break through on these subjects that the regular person will listen to, where they won't feel that there's a political agenda behind it, it's going to be Pope Francis.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting how ambitious an agenda he has.
And in a way, it is, but it's also simple. Like the thing you mentioned, Rich, about, he's talked, that encyclical he just recently issued called Laudato Si, about, it really, people say it's on the environment. Well, it's really about responsibility for the created universe. And he starts with something very simple, like Genesis saying God made man and women and men and women, and he gave them responsibility for the earth and all the living creatures in it. And that's a very simple idea, just saying, well, it's God's creation and we have to take good care of it and not trample on it and bulldoze our way through it, and whether it's the way we treat other people or the way we treat animals or the way we treat vegetation or just the way we treat our resources. The world doesn't belong to us, it belongs to the Lord, and we're supposed to take care of it and share it.
In the Curia, how much support does he have? Because we hear conflicting accounts that he made it clear that he was going to clear out some of the folks here who didn't have the best interests of the church at heart. Like in many organizations, there's dysfunction, also some corruption. I'm certainly not breaking news here to that end. So far, his short term has been met with some criticism that he's not conservative enough, and also he's breaking too many eggs. When he comes to the States, does he know when he goes back, whatever he pushes for, as beloved an international figure he is, he can get through even his own church hierarchy, or no?
Well, I don't know. Like, who am I to say? But, I suspect there's some people in the Vatican, I'm sure, that are very enthused and excited and applaud what he's doing. And others, because he represents such a different mode of looking at things, probably feel very uncomfortable, threatened, and negative. And I dare say that's the same all over.
Absolutely.
When you stop and think that almost all the bishops of the world were chosen under Pope John Paul II and Benedict because of the long reign of Pope John Paul II. And all during those years, the stress in picking good bishops was good, solid, reliable, loyal, Rome-focused people who are going to support all of the things of the church. And this is a different style, and it's upsetting. I remember one American cardinal said to me that he had never been so profoundly spiritually challenged in his life until this Pope started. Not critically, very positively, but that's a powerful thing to say when you've been a priest for years and years and years and had high responsibilities.
With all the black clouds that have hung over our church in recent decades, many of them self-inflicted, do you have as much anticipation, not just about this visit, but about this potential of this Pope as you can remember?
The series of popes in recent years have all been great men. Very different, but great men. But I must admit that I'm really enthused about this one. It's like it's revival for me personally and my generation, like reviving the drooping spirit. And I'm optimistic, but it's so complex because it's painful and difficult. And it's like moving a mountain. Like the mandate of the new Pope was he had to do something about better fiscal responsibility in the Vatican and reorganizing the Curia. And that's hard. I mean, it's like when a new president comes in, he thinks he's going to change Washington. Yeah. I think President Barack Obama made a lot of that, when he first started, but it's very hard. It's like moving a mountain. And so the Pope has already done a tremendous amount of reorganization. But by Vatican standards, he's going at light speed. Yeah. I mean, he totally reorganized fiscal responsibility, financial affairs, budgetary management. He picked a strong conservative cardinal, Cardinal Pell from Australia, put him in charge, and he wants to put him in charge in everything involving money, taking away all the autonomy from different departments. I mean, he's constantly making moves. Just recently, just the past week, he announced motu proprio at his own initiative, a reorganization of the procedures for annulment. He said, you know, there's many people whose marriages have been rocky, and we have to do something about it, but the procedure is too complex.
Yep.
Too many safeguards. It's so concerned to safeguard the dignity of the concept of marriage that people are getting hurt in the process. And he said, we got to start with the people, you know.
Yeah.
And the metaphor he used at the beginning when he started, he said the church is like a field hospital. When you're bringing in the wounded, you don't check their diabetes level or something, you know, you bandage them. And so he said, you know, we're in an emergency situation, so to speak.
Thank you very much, Monsignor. I really appreciate it, and like you, I look forward to a couple weeks from now when he comes to our neck of the woods in Philadelphia as well. It will be very interesting. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Up next, our Hudson Valley headlines. Stay with us.